Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Okay, so this is tea. This is peach tea and it smells so good. It's decaffeinated and it's also green tea. I mix my teas, so it's two of them. Y'all don't care about that. Okay, so by the title of this video, I'm going to be explaining my CDL training experience, but the part I didn't tell y'all about, the semi crazy parts, it's not really that crazy, but these are experiences that I thought were weird and a little bit wild. So I figured I would explain these to you since you guys liked my video with my experiences over the road. Also, if you haven't seen my video before this, I made a video about my CDL training experience period, which is giving more of the general explanation of what happened. If you haven't seen that already, it should be in my description box below. Check it out and tell me what you think about that. So without further ado, let me go ahead and hop in. Oh, that's good. It's good. All right. So, my first story starts off with me being on the field. So in my last video, I told you guys that CDL training school is split into two different segments where you are in a class-like setting the first half, which is pretty much just 1 week, and then the rest of the experience is you being on the field. So this takes place on the field, and what I explained also is that there is maybe about 25 of us at the most, and we are all split into groups of like 5 or more or less, but generally about 5. And so we had been split up into groups, and we all had our own instructor for that specific group, and that's where we practice maneuvers. So in our group, I was the only female, and we had a man that was training us, and he was doing relatively well. We started off with our first maneuver, which is straight backs, and we handled that, and then we turned around and we started doing offsets. Now after about a week with him, he ended up leaving for 1 week, and I don't really remember what it was for. It was something personal. So when he left, we had someone substitute for him. And so, you know when you get comfortable with somebody and you start knowing like, okay, he's this type of instructor, or this is this type of instructor or teacher, you get comfortable with them. You don't really want someone new to come along and try to teach you an entirely different way. But I tried to have an open mind. So we had this one woman come in and instruct in place of him. And I remember thinking, oh, that's actually pretty cool. When it came down to men versus women, there were clearly a lot more men in the field and in the instructor list and just period, right? And so for there to have been a woman instructor, I was pretty like, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna have somebody that I can relate to, somebody that might be able to give me certain pointers that a man wouldn't be able to give. I just remember feeling like, this is dope. So this woman, she came along and she started teaching us, and I don't really know how to explain this. Mind you, she was our instructor for the entire week after him. I remember like the first 2 hours of her teaching us that I started to wish he had come back. I don't really know. Okay, so let me explain to you why. All right. So the issue is this woman was very, very like sexual. Do I want to say that? How else do I say that? She was wild. This woman was wild. Throughout the time that we were there, I hadn't even recognized that there had been rumors about this woman, but I wasn't focused on that, But there had been rumors about this woman where she was flirting with the students in the school and just everybody in general. And it is what it is. I hadn't thought too much about it. But once she actually got in our group, I recognized that it was very blatant. It wasn't something that was just rumored. She owned that. She owned it for sure. I just remember being in a group, and like I said, there were like 4 guys, four to 5. One kept hopping in and out of our group, and then there was me. And for the most part, they were well behaved. You know, I didn't feel at any point super uncomfortable with the conversations they were having and things like that. And at the end of the day, they're grown men, but just understand, like, you know, as the only female, I don't want to be involved in too many off-putting conversations. You know, that's not what I'm here for. But, you know, they were doing pretty well. And then here come this lady. She would start the most sexual conversations. And I just remember thinking, dog, I'm the only female in this group. I don't need you to be making this an uncomfortable feeling for me. I don't need this from you. That you are supposed to be on my side. I need them to stay well behaved, because once you open that door, it's hard to close the door back. You get what I'm saying? If they start talking about stuff like that and are comfortable with it with me there, then now I'm in a position where either I have to just sort of like distance myself, because I don't really want to be a part of that. You know, that's not what I'm here for. You know, not to be a prude or nothing, but I'm here to get my license. I'm not trying to be having a conversation about sex with y'all. I don't know y'all. I just remember there was this particular point where I had told myself, Nisha, give her the benefit of the doubt, or at least give her another chance. Because I'm telling you, by like day 3, I had pretty much like lost all interest. I mean, she was barely giving us attention. There was a particular point where the instructors had to grade us based upon how well we did our maneuvers, and by the end of the day we had all these grades, and then they averaged out to a specific grade for that day. And I just remember I was struggling a tad bit in the beginning of the week, and where the instructor before her would show you exactly what you should do in order to fix yourself, she would dip off. I mean, I don't know where she would be at. She would be out somewhere. It was at one point where she handed the clipboard to one of us and was like, grade them. Like, where are you about to go? She would leave. And I mean, it would be to the point where we would practically be like, all right, I'm gonna just grade you this because I think you did good. And you know that person didn't do good. All I know is I told myself I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt, because I had a question. It was something along the lines of gear shifting. So I had pulled her to the side because I wanted it to be a one-on-one thing. I wanted to establish some type of relationship with this only woman instructor, right? So I pulled her to the side and I'm like, hey, such and such and such, gear shifting. Don't remember what I was saying. When I tell you, this woman started trying to explain to me how to gear shift in a way. She did it in comparison to sex. I mean, child, I wish I could explain this better. It was like she was looking at me deep in my eyes and was saying stuff like, you know, what you gotta do is you gotta do it like, and then started just saying all types of like, I'm like, dog, that's all right. I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. Like, I'm done. I'm not asking you nothing else, because at this point now you're doing it on purpose. I mean, there were points in this week where she was like, if you guys do well, you can wet me with this bucket of ice cold water. She was getting wild. They had poured the bucket of water on her. She flipping her hair. Child, she was talking about how they would talk wild on the CBs. I mean, she wasn't giving me no valuable advice at all. Everything had to do with sex. Everything had to do with sex. I mean, at the end of the day, she got fired. I don't know what she did specifically to get her fired, but I just know that she for sure should have never been hired. I don't think she... What do I say after that? Realistically, I don't think that she was a bad instructor. I just feel like she didn't put any effort into instructing. She put all effort into sex conversations. Anyways, my next story takes place after her. Now, the last portion of our training was us going out over the road, which meant that all of us piled into this truck. Honestly, I think by this time it had only been 4 of us. I think one of our people went to another group or something like that. But all of us piled into one truck and we all went wherever the instructor told us to go. And we would take turns throughout that trip driving and trying to get acclimated to how to drive with a gear shift and all that stuff, right? So I told you we all have separate instructors, right? It's also dependent on the maneuver or the segment that you're being trained on. So being that we were on a totally different segment, we no longer had our original trainer. We had a totally different trainer. So when we first got introduced to our instructor, he was this tall, lanky guy, probably in his 40s, 50s, 50-ish. He seemed pretty cool, you know. So we had all piled into this truck. He was teaching us pretty much how to do the gear shifts. For the first day, we pretty much just drove around certain blocks that weren't all that populated. So we had a lot of space and room to make error if we did, because we were still just learning the gears. He didn't want us on a main road for real. So that's what we were doing the first day. I just remember noticing that he seemed a tad bit stressed. Not for real, not like, ugh, but he just, you know, he would smoke cigarettes, he would take smoke breaks, stuff, and you know, we would all just be chilling. He would be having conversations with us and everything would be cool. I think it was driving us back after we had all took our turns and it was the end of the day. And as we were driving back, randomly he says, "Do I offend any of you in any particular way? Have I been loud or mistreating to any of you today?" And you know when somebody brings up something that is either just out of nowhere or just out of touch, you know how it can quiet everyone else and everybody will sort of just look like, what? That's sort of how that happened, because I promise you, we were all having separate conversations and chilling, and then he just randomly asked this question and we're like, okay, what? So we're like, nah, you've been straight. And that's when he starts like breaking this stuff down. And it was very brief, but he pretty much explains how apparently this one person had that he had trained before had snitched on him apparently and said that he'd just been disrespectful and been loud to her and all this stuff, and she didn't appreciate it. And so he's like, you know, I really don't appreciate that she said that about me because I really don't feel like I've been that way and things like that. And so we like, oh, where did this come from? But we got you. No, you've been good, you know. So we all trying to give him assurance like, no, you fine, you know. You all right. That's how this day went. That was day 1, right? So day 2, I drive to my trucking school. And I get there at 8 o'clock in the morning. And we all wait in this one area for our instructor. And oftentimes he's there before all of us. So we all are there, day 2, ready to get on the road. And he's there. And he's about to start our day off when someone from the office comes out and asks him to follow them into the office. So we don't think nothing of it. He's like, I'll be back, guys. And we're like, okay, cool. So we're chilling and chilling. 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes go by. I think around the 15-minute mark is when we started saying, dang, where he at? So we're all trying to figure out what could be the reason why he got pulled into this office, because it's been 15 minutes. It shouldn't take that long if it was something small. So we're thinking, okay, maybe it's something big. And so we're like, dang, we wonder what could be going on. When somebody randomly says, man, hear me out. What if he got lung cancer? I'm like, I don't think that's the first. He's like, what if he has lung cancer? Because I remember he was smoking so hard yesterday. Or better yet, what if one of his sons have lung cancer? Because his son, he was talking about his son yesterday. I'm like, or maybe he's getting fired because of that situation he was telling us about yesterday. They like, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's gotta be either of the two. Either he getting fired or he for sure has lung cancer. So we're all, conversing about what could be going on when all of a sudden we hear this truck pull up. Now, it's not a semi-truck, it's a pickup truck. So we all turn and look, and this pickup truck is backing up to our semi-truck. And before we could question what's going on, here he comes popping out of the truck with an attitude, slams the door. And so we're looking like, what's going on? So before we could say something, we noticed that and I think one of us did say something like, hey, what's up, bro? He gets in the semi-truck, starts pulling his stuff out. He gets in his truck, puts all his stuff in, and skirts. I mean, he pulls off dust, debris, bye. We looking like, is he coming back? After a while, we like, no, he got fired. Ain't no way. Later on, somebody finally comes over, because we had been standing there for about a good 30 minutes at this point. Somebody from the office comes over and they're like, we're trying to find you a new instructor. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us. I'm like, dang. So apparently dude got fired. So that would be 2 people that's gotten fired. This tea is so good. So good. It's messed up because he was a pretty decent guy. I really honestly he probably had a lot on his mind, because I just don't remember really learning much from our first day with him. But again, he was stressed out. So I think that he was stressed out because he knew that lady had said a little too much about him and that he was about to be let go. Hopefully he's doing well now. I'm sure he should be fine. I don't think there was ever a point where I would have considered lung cancer. So heaven forbid he's in that predicament. Next story. So this third and final story is actually not someone getting fired. This story took place almost immediately after the guy in the last story got fired. So clearly we needed a new instructor, and we got one. And he was so much better in every way with instructing us over the road, in my opinion, than the guy before. But then again, I will say it's probably because the guy was stressed because he knew he was about to be, cut off, let go, fired. So this guy at this point was dedicated to teaching us for the rest of the week. And we have been doing pretty well with him. I remember by like day 3, I had it, and I think pretty much all of us did too. I don't remember specifically if it was Thursday or Friday, but I know it was towards the end of the week. He decided that he wanted to take us a little bit further out than our regular route where we was just going throughout the city. I think that this was like the best time out of all of our time over the field, because you got to understand, when we were on the field, it was so hot. We were sweating, and we were drinking water and all this stuff. But this was like the redemptive state where we were just in the truck with AC driving, and we were taking turns, and it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed this. So almost every day or so, we would probably pull up somewhere and take a quick little break where we would use the bathroom or whatever. And being that we went further out, we took a break at this random strip mall. And the way this strip mall was set up was, on one side there was this big old lot where you could tell that it was probably a business that required a lot of parking space, but that it was closed down, so it was vacant. And then on the other side was the stores that everybody was going to, like Big Lots, and I think it was like another couple stores or whatever. And so we had pulled up there because we noticed that there was a big old lot, and we knew that we could, I keep saying big lot, But there was a big old space for our truck to be able to sit freely without being in anyone's way. And we would be able to go and walk to one of these stores, use the bathroom, grab some snacks, and then come back. So that was the goal, right? So our instructor, he tells us to park here. I don't remember who was driving, but all I know is we parked in this big vacant area. And we all was like, all right, we about to go use the bathroom, grab some snacks, and come back. So we all get out the truck. And as we are leaving the truck, I'd say we were probably about 10 yards away from the truck when this white guy like yelled at us and was like, hey! If I could explain him the best way possible, I would say he looked like Kill Bill, but dirtier. You know what? He looked like a crossbreed in between Kill Bill, I keep saying Kill Bill. He looked like Bill from Kill Bill, and the guy that be taking the microphone out of the news lady's hand and be saying, you know what he be saying. My bad, y'all. I'm still trying to figure out this camera. But anyways, where was I at? Also, it's like 2 in the morning, 2:25. Bear with me. But anyways, so this guy just starts being belligerent. He just starts walking over to us and he's like, hey, get off of my property. You guys can't be on my property. You truck drivers always trying to be on my property. This is my property. And our instructor, he's like taken aback. And he's like, hey, guy, won't you cool it? We all like turn around and we don't really know what's going on, but apparently this guy's pissed because this is his property that I suppose he owns, and I guess us parking there really rubbed him the wrong way. But our instructor, so he turns over and he's like, hey guy, won't you cool it? We're just trying to get some snacks and we're trying to use the bathroom and we'll be on our way. And this guy's like, no. And then from here on out, he just starts cursing like crazy. Like he just starts going at it. You guys get the... I mean, he starts just going crazy, right? And so my instructor, after a certain point in time, they just started throwing insults back at each other. But you know how like when the insults are sort of like not seasoned, like when it's like, anyways. So either way, we, the instructees, the people who have to use the bathroom and want to get snacks, we start going to the store anyway, right? So I grab me a couple of snacks, and we're under the impression that the instructor is going to handle it. Either, we don't know what that means, but you know, you're the instructor, so you know, do what you gotta do. I think I was probably in the store about 5 minutes, and the people with me, they were getting their stuff too. So we come back out, and to our surprise, we don't see the truck. So we're like, all right. Now, mind you, the instructor never came in, so we know he got the keys. So we like, okay, well, did he pull off? So we just started rounding the corner, because like I said, this is a strip mall. So we were parked in a regular parking lot, but being that we couldn't see the truck, the only other logical space besides pulling off and going to a totally different destination would be behind the building. So we start walking towards that side to see if our truck is there. And lo and behold, our truck is there. I believe the instructor was trying to park in a more reasonable area, and the Kill Bill guy, I'm gonna just call him Bill was so pissed that our instructor was still trying to find a place to park instead of just leaving, that he blocked our truck in. So I'm telling you, this guy had this pickup truck and was like saying, you guys aren't leaving, I'm calling the cops. And he's just like going belligerent at this point. I mean, he's pissed. He's so outlandishly pissed. It doesn't make sense. And to make matters worse, he has this son who's blocking us in from another way, I guess with a car, I think. I don't even remember. It was sort of blurry at this point. But they are both like blocking us in. And so the weird thing about it is, if you want us to leave, you feel me? If you want us to leave, why are you blocking us in? So as we're walking, I'm over here like, for real, you know, I'm at this point getting a little frustrated because it's like, what are you doing? For the most part, we're all like, wow, this is crazy, da 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 da. And I think one of us was a little bit more pissed than the rest of us, because when I tell you, once we got closer to our truck, the shortest guy in our group, and I do mean the shortest, I mean he's practically my height, no offense, but it's the truth, he blew up. I mean, he blew a gasket. This guy started going off on this white man, on Bill. Bill was trying to keep us in, and this short black dude, he's like, you gonna have to get the he just started going off. And I mean, when I tell you he shut Bill up, when I tell you Bill and his son backed out the way, it's something about us. Where we get to a certain level, you know we done playing. And it was just so hilarious that our trainer was talking to them this entire time, trying to tell them like, man, this is so ridiculous, y'all need to cool it. And it took for the shortest one in the group besides me to boss up, and they all was like, all right. They just started vrooming out the way, and we started pulling off. So the instructor, he got in the truck, right? And so we're sort of laughing because it's like, where did that come from? This guy, he had never went off on nobody to our knowledge in our faces before. He was generally pretty cool, laid back. So we had never expected this, but this man just started going off. And so we laughing like, dang, you was pissed, weren't you? So we're all just chilling. Meanwhile, the instructor, he's pulling off. As we're talking and everything and sort of giggling, I feel like my instructor doesn't have it all together, right? So I sort of turn over to the side, and he's like beet red, and he's just like, you know, and I'm like, ooh, you know, I'm really not sure if I should say anything. I'm feeling like he should be fine because, you know, it was just an encounter, but he just seemed real shaken up. And he was shaken up because shortly after he had pulled off, he ended up parking in the middle of a busy street. He parked in the turning lane, got out of the driver's seat, and said, Nisha, you drive. You take it. You take us home. And I'm like, could you have parked me somewhere less busy? Like, dang, it's Thursday. I barely even drove this truck, and you just parked me in the middle of this busy street. Like, we ain't even park off the side on the curb. We parked in a turning lane. Why would you do that? Why would you do that to me? You know, so I'm over here like, dang, this guy is really, really worked up to be parking this way. So we got back. He ended up being fine. Once we got back, he was, you know, he was back to his regular self, but we could tell he was like real worked up. Maybe he wasn't used to encounters and things like that, and so it really bothered him. He really left me out in the deep end. I feel like you could have, you know, parked me off on a curb somewhere, but fine. Yeah. But yeah, at the end of it, I really did enjoy my CDL training experience, for that matter. These were just some of the little situations that occurred while I was there that I felt you guys might have wanted to hear. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I pray that you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I pray that you guys are happy, are full of joy, full of peace, that everything that's going on around you has no negative effect on you, but that it only makes you better. And I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.